Okay? The book is called 9 Acres, and it takes, every poem is written in the same form, 4 stanzas of rhymed tetrameter. But anyway, the title 9 Acres comes from another book called 5 Acres and Independence, which is a wonderful book from the 30s by a guy named M.G. Keynes, who was a soil scientist for the government. And he wrote this book basically on how to go live a self-sustainable life. This is in the 30s, post-depression, back to the land movement. But anyway, I stole all of his chapter titles for the titles to my poems. So there are 52 chapters in Keynes's book, and I have 52 poems. So the titles are somewhat prosaic and sometimes don't seem like the best titles for poems, but once I started this project and I got well enough into it, I couldn't exactly quit. So that's what happened. So here's a few of them. So the first poem in the book is called Introduction. Right, see how it works? So the first poem in the book, first chapter was Introduction. So Introduction. I'll start this with an ending or something like an ending. At least there's tension and fading light. In the back field, our neighbor Lee's long field behind us, we were sliding along the muddy pasture road, the dogs, the boy and I, all out for a walk at dusk, when a coyote, bright as tomorrow, opened and shut and opened again the wood's dark doors, then stilled to stand and look at us. The dogs trembled and communicated with a quickening of every muscle, while I tried just to read the animal's face. But all I got was the starkness of form, that which hunts before me, that which is not dark in the darkness. The farm to choose. Where the gravel easement straightens out into the swale, they say is there to hide a spring that only shows its face in the strongest rains. Where the rise rises up to what we will refer to as the meadow or future orchard. Where the woods reach out along the drive, their shadows to us and to the meadow. Where the driveway turns again, now hard, beside what soon will be the garden once we educate the yard from being yard to being soil. Where the house in a high place stands with its young eyes. I think from here I can make out sure signs of land. A lot of the chapters just had very plain titles, like poultry. And those were some of the harder ones to access. Fortunately, I have some poultry, so I was able to. That wasn't easy. Does anybody keep chickens?
I have.
You have? Yeah. They lay more eggs than children. I have learned that. All right, poultry. Red Star, Black Star, Golden Comet, Buttercup, Buckeye, Delaware, Wyandotte, Orpington, Plymouth Rock, Cochin, Lamona, Chanticleer, and Crèvecoeur, and Black-tailed Banty, Leghorn, Phoenix, Buff, and Red. Malay, Sultan, Sussex, and Jersey Giant. I could go on, but instead will not give in to just this language and all its smaller charms today. I need the eggs for breakfast, so how about we make a deal and say I'll give in to the eggs and then the hens as we play our little game. My ducking in the coop, they're calling softly out my singular name.
Really florid.
Huh?
Really florid.
Yeah.
Archon.
I only have a few right now. We had an owl problem, but now we have
nuggets.
The rooster helps now. Okay, this one's called Essential Factors of Production. I'll make a dirty joke, you'll cringe, but maybe later acquiesce. The seedlings spread beneath our lights will slowly draw their backwards breaths. The peas are in before the rain, it's cold, but they don't mind the cold so much. I know you hate this rain, frigid on your hands, but fold the empty envelopes of seed with satisfaction nonetheless. The ground shows little of what we've done, but insignificance, I guess, is still a signal of some kind. Our secrets, hidden and so unharmed, we're sure will soon transform us, or will at least return to us transformed. This next one is called Remaking a Neglected Orchard. Sometimes, as you know, you have to lie in a poem. We sadly did not have a neglected orchard at our property, but the title of the poem had to be Remaking a Neglected Orchard. So I had to fib a little. We have lots of other neglected things, but not orchards. We do have some cherry trees, so it's not a total lie. Remaking a neglected orchard. It was a good idea, cutting away the vines and ivy, trimming back the chest-high thicket lazy years had let grow here. Though it wasn't for lack of love for the trees, I'd like to point out, years love trees in a way we can't imagine. They just don't use the fruit like us. They want instead the slant of sun through narrow branches, the buckshot of rain on these old cherries. And we, now that I think on it, want those things too. We just always and desperately want the sugar of the fruit, the best we'll get from this irascible land. A sweetness we can gather for years. New stains staining the stains on our hands. And some of the chapter titles just were great, which is why I set on this project. This one was my favorite. Tried and True Ways to Fail was the name of the chapter. And Keynes is so funny in there. The whole chapter is like, if you're coming out here for the pretty scenery, you're going to fail, right? If you're coming out here because you think it'd be romantic to be a farmer, you're going to fail, right? If you come out thinking you're not going to fail, you're going to fail, right? It's this great chapter of your own limitations, which is one of the reasons I was so attracted to the book. So this poem is called Tried and True Ways to Fail. Cut the tree with a bent bow saw. When the blade bucks and sticks in the heart of the fallen pine, try to free it with your gloveless hand. Seek art in the winds wrestling the trees. Decide what your children will think about something, like difficult art up in the pines, or imagine them always happy and running. Brace your strength with a foot on the trunk to the left of the buried blade. Pull with everything in you. When you fall, unbalanced, notice the maples are full of color, or filling up like a glass of water. Everything you can see is filling or full. The boy is starting to crawl. The saw is still in the tree. So as Derek mentioned, some of these poems involve my neighbor Lee. He does not talk in them, but this was an opportunity for me to do some of that transference of perspective, right? To bring something else into the project other than just me. So this is maybe my being patient in that way. This was a poem called Cropping Systems. Lee's my only neighbor. He's lived there his whole life. He was actually an orphan and was adopted by the family that had that land, but the family has been there since before the Civil War. They lost the land once in the 30s, but got it back. So he's been there for a while. Cropping Systems. Lee stopped his putting feed corn in to tell me that his father died. He said the place didn't really seem like much of a farm anymore. His shy face not shy in the evening sun or in the grief still warm in him. He came down from the tractor while we talked it over, cut the engine to hear me better, though I didn't have much to say that wasn't already clear in the slow stretch of oats and meadow behind us. The sun restudied our bodies in shadow as we turned away from dying and spoke of hay and drought, as if to say, that's all we ever really know anything about. Now I'll read one more poem from the book. This also has Lee in it. This one's called Storage of Fruits and Vegetables. Well, the melons didn't grow as big as you would have liked them to. The corn made ears the size of those giant pencils you get as a kid, which it's true, are big for pencils, but for corn, not what we'd imagined exactly. Lee made fun of me a little, his acres of corn waving calmly in the sun, but our potatoes came in like gold, like loaves of buried bread. Beans are canned and stacked inside like numbers in a table. The dead are still dead, I'm afraid, but we've tried. We try to live off this life nonetheless. Look up. Our beans have reached the tops of the poles I set in the ground, and they will not stop.